All right, y'all, we need to address the elephant in the room. When people start hearing about Kung Fu training or Wing Chun, they start thinking, oh, that's not practical on the street. They think to themselves, I need to study another style like boxing. And uh, as someone who's taught Wing Chun for 18 years, I can tell you that it's not always that black and white. So, what happened with Bruce Lee is he was trained in Wing Chun, and then when he moved to Seattle, he started sparring boxers. And from this experience, he realized that he needed more than just Wing Chun to be effective on the street. And so that's when he started incorporating other elements into his fighting style other than just Wing Chun. And what I see a lot of times with Wing Chun practitioners is they want to constantly stay in the elbow range doing what's called chi sao. And they work this chi sao as if this is the gospel of fighting, as if this is everything. And as you may think, this can be a problem when you get into different ranges. When you're fighting a boxer, the boxer is not going to stay in this range. He's also not going to let you just grab his hands. He's going to be throwing fast hands, and he's going to be slick. He's going to be moving. He's going to be pivoting around. So Wing Chun has a specific range of engagement, and that is in here in the elbow range. And so most practitioners in Wing Chun, they get stuck in this kind of mental trap. And that's what happened with Bruce Lee. He realized it was too rigid of a system to be effective on the street. So when I teach Wing Chun, I teach it as a system, just like it was taught traditional way, but we have to put it in its place. And at the same time, we want to take the principles of Wing Chun, such as the center line, and make that usable in combat. And it doesn't matter what style you're learning, the center line principle can be very effective. Also, the gate system. So you need to learn the different gates. You need to learn how to cover these gates, how to protect your inside gate, how to exploit your opponent's gates. And so this is a very, very, I'd say, essential piece of building your fight game is understanding the distance and how these gates operate and how to penetrate the gates. So this is actually very, very valuable from Wing Chun. The problem itself is not the system, it's that people get trapped in the system. The system is like a tool. It's like saying if you bring a wrench to come fix something, that's the wrong tool and so you can't fix it. Well, you may need that wrench for a certain part of that repair, but you may need a screwdriver, you may need a hammer, you may need some screws, other things too. So that's, in my opinion, the best way to approach Wing Chun. The other thing is that if you are a pure Wing Chun fighter and the other opponent doesn't know anything, you're going to have an advantage, provided that you train effectively in Wing Chun. You're going to have a well-toned body. You're going to be used to seeing punches coming. You're going to have an idea of how to defend yourself against punches and kicks. And if you practice good, hard Wing Chun, this is really going to set you above the average person. And this is what a lot of people don't take into consideration, is that it's not just about what system, it's the fact that you're getting up and exercising and moving your body and coming in contact with people, or maybe working on your dummy in a consistent way. This is going to set you apart than the guy who sits on their ass watching TV and watching fights and thinking they know something. When you get into contact with people and you work yourself and you stay on a path and you keep drilling it over time, you're going to get better. So my 2 cents on it is, if Wing Chun is all you have, that's fine. That's great. Keep working it. But if you want to get into practical fighting, eventually you're going to need to incorporate other elements. And that's what happened with Bruce Lee, is he started studying other elements such as karate, such as fencing. And he started using these movements such as Western boxing, working his slips out, his slips, working his longer range techniques, working his lead hand, right? That jab, different stances. So absolutely, Wing Chun can be a great starting place, but it can also be a great thing just to study to keep you engaged. And there's nothing wrong with just purely working on Wing Chun. But as a fighter, you will need to incorporate other elements. So one of the things that I just want to cover with Wing Chun today is returning back to that center line. If you're engaging your opponent, and let's say they throw a hook, you're going to cover your gate. You're going to not allow it to get into the center line. When they throw that hook, you're going to use your tan sao, right? The tan sao can be used in any martial art. When you use that tan sao, this is going to prevent that hook from coming through. Now, you may ask yourself, well, why do you keep it out here versus back in here? Well, in Wing Chun, we have different ranges. We have the inside gate range, we have a middle range, and then we have an outer range, which is usually used for trapping. And all these are going to depend on what the opponent's doing and what you're trying to do also. So, but when it comes to versus boxing, boxers have a huge glove, right? They can get away with pressing their knuckles into their skull, and there's padding there. Whereas a Wing Chun guy is trained on street fighting. Street fighting is different, right? Sometimes you have to give some space in there, right? So you can catch that punch out here, and then it has some give to it just in case it's super hard. So in Wing Chun, you're training bare hands. You're training, with your fingers out, where you can grab, you can pull. There's a technique in Wing Chun where you pull. It's called a lap sao. You're there to pull your opponent off his base, right? So you can strike, right? Or you pull him into the punch, or you pull him into an elbow. So there's no limit in the technique, whereas the boxing, and boxing's great. We do a lot of boxing here at Sifu Myers, but you don't have your knuckles exposed, you don't have your fingers exposed, so it's different. So you have to switch up the techniques a little bit when you're doing boxing. So there are advantages of Wing Chun. Wing Chun, you use the principles as a practical fighter, and it can enhance your fighting skill. But to say that all Kung Fu is BS would just be lying to yourself. I know many people who are Kung Fu fighters. Some of them have come up into professional level from starting with Kung Fu at their base. And so it's a great place to start. The other thing that's great about all forms of Kung Fu is you are starting with working your base, and that is your stances. If you're ever in a school and they don't work the stances, you're not in a real Kung Fu school. And this is one of the wonderful things that I love about Kung Fu, and what kind of kept me going when I started getting into real Kung Fu is that we were drilled so hard on the stances that it can help you to be able to move through your opponent without getting off balance, being able to absorb whatever they throw at you, and then also delivering really powerful shots at the end of it. And as someone who seeks to learn true fighting, you will know that your base is everything. If people can push you off your base, then your punches won't be worth anything. Your kicks won't be worth anything. You'll be off balance. You'll be falling all over the place. And it won't matter how much martial arts you know. If you don't have the kung power, it's not going to be worth anything. So no matter how high you get up in the martial arts, in the kung fu, we always return to that base. We return to what's called Sapien stance. And this keeps you anchored in reality. It keeps you anchored on the ground. And when you do that, you're developing yourself. And even if you can't do anything else today, you could always work your Sapien stance. And traditionally, the practitioners would work up to 6 months just the stances without doing any other techniques, because again, your other techniques are worthless without a strong base. So even though I've been a trainer in Kung Fu for 20 years, I can tell you that it absolutely works, but you have to know when to apply it, and you have to kind of source the goodness from Kung Fu and not just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say, oh, you just need to study boxing or you just need to study this style. Kung Fu can keep you engaged. It keeps your body strong, keeps your body limber, keeps you quick in your blows. You start to learn how to throw with chi power as you go. And so absolutely Kung Fu is awesome. It's still awesome today as it was back in the olden days. And it's still very practical, but you do need to train properly. You do need to know some of the limitations of Kung Fu and to cover up your holes and to get with people who are trying to work with you and exploit you. Know that if you put yourself in a little bit of danger over a period of time where people are trying to penetrate your defense, people are trying to throw with full power on you, that is worth more than going super light and then being in for a rude awakening if you ever need it. So that's what we do here at Sifu Myers. We train with really pressure testing and also competition, full contact sanda, kickboxing, boxing, karate. All of these are useful to cultivate yourself. You got to think about if somebody's swinging on you full on versus punching like this and leaving their hand out there for you to do 1,500 techniques on their arm to finally flip you, that's just unrealistic. Real Kung Fu has to do with making fast and effective techniques. And this has to do with covering yourself properly, defending yourself properly, slips, traps, kicks, punches, grabs, holds, elbows, knees, headbutts, everything you need to be a full fighter. So the main thing is not, most of the time with most people, is not what style, it's are you training? Are you getting up off your ass and training? That's the main block. The people that want to sit back and talk about, oh, this style sucks and this sucks, most of the time, they have too much time on their hands and they're not actually training hardly on any of these styles. So it doesn't even matter what they're talking about. Don't be a talker, be a doer, train in whatever martial art is in front of you. Get going today. Nothing else, get down and work your stances. Okay, y'all, this is my 2 cents on Wing Chun. I'll be doing probably more videos here on this. And then also mention that live stream if you want to get going and learn the real stuff. Okay, appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.